Hi guys, it's raining cats and dogs in my world. What about you? Well, I'm starting the day with just making some ginger tea and I'm just getting the water and stuff and checking, multitasking as usual. I just looked up some updates on Harry and Meghan and I learned that Harry had attended his uncle-in-law's funeral on Wednesday of this week. Today's Friday, so 2 days ago, he attended the funeral. And as it turns out, the UK media, the cockroach tabloid cockroaches, this is not my expression, this is an expression I've heard used to refer to them, so do excuse me if it's a little bit indelicate. But it turns out that they didn't know that Harry had come to the UK and left the UK until after the whole thing was over. And get this, he was there with his brother William. William was at the funeral, and it was a small, intimate gathering of people in a church. So the two brothers may have even exchanged pleasantries of the day, if not more. And so Harry flew in. He didn't alert the security, whatever, the office of the security, the home office, whatever. And he attended the funeral, privately and unobtrusively, right? And confidentially. And he came in on a jet. So I'm assuming it must have been a private jet, because if it was not a private jet, I'm sure that there would have been some selfies taken of him walking through the airport, right? So this was a private jet. So he flew in on a private jet, and then he flew out right away. I mean, he didn't stay, he attended the funeral and he just got back on a plane. And it's such a rainy day. Can you hear the rain falling as I'm talking to you? So that's really, really amazing on many, many different levels. To get back to Harry, is that Harry was in the UK and nobody knew about it. The only thing people knew about was the fact that he was scheduled to be in New York in September around the same time as William. And that was the news dominating the headlines, in addition to the New York Times article about Meghan and her collaboration with Sester Collective, right? And in addition to the remnants of the Columbia tour. All of this happening together, creating like a stew, like a literal casserole of news and content. And in between all that, we get the news that Harry was not going to attend the funeral of his uncle-in-law. I think this woman, Kinsey, what was her name? Kinsey something or the other, a major Meghan hater. She's the one who superimposed her face over Meghan's as, being the rightful bride of Harry. But, I took a look at her in a video yesterday where she was talking about this funeral, and she assured us, the viewers, that there is no way that Harry would go to this funeral, and she waxed poetic of her expertise on the subject matter. This was about a week or two ago. I'm not going to show the video here because she has enough views and enough recommendations from YouTube. But so she spewed her expertise on the subject matter. She told us there is no way that Harry would attend this funeral, and she stopped short of saying that he wasn't even welcomed in the first place. I mean, she left no stone unturned with her disdain. And come to find out that she really is an expert at nothing at all having to do with the Sussexes. And by the way, her arm, she has the chubbiest, like very fat arms. And that's not to fat shame her or fat shame anybody, because I have fat arms too. But it's just to say that it kind of explains one of the reasons why she might hate Meghan so much, is because, because when you have fat arms, it's very, very difficult to spot lose fat arms. When you have fat arms, it's one of the toughest places to lose weight and then to look toned, because you lose the weight, but then you have these wing bats for arms. And I think this is a frustration for this woman, Kenzie, whatever her name is. But, she just absolutely hates Meghan. And I think she hates Meghan because Meghan is effortlessly thin, I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, sometimes it's that, people don't understand why some people are so effortlessly skinny. I mean, I certainly don't understand it, and no matter what you do, no matter how much you walk, how much you work out, whatever, you just have these big arms or big thighs or whatever it is that you have that's big that you don't want, And Kenzie might be one of those people who has these really, really big arms. She's very big armed, in that video I saw this morning. So it was a video that she did 2 weeks ago where she waxed poetic about her expertise about whether Harry would go to this funeral for his uncle or not, right? His 82-year-old uncle, whatever, the husband of his mother's sister, right? So anyway, so I thought that was really, really interesting that in all of this sort of like casserole of content that was going on at the time was hidden the real gem that Harry was in the UK and flying to the UK to attend his funeral. Now, that's very interesting. And so in the future, I want to watch that more, because I sense that the Sussexes are becoming experts at covering their tracks, but they can't cover their tracks for me, okay? Because I see patterns, right? So I'm like, the next time we have a cluster and flurry of activity from the Sussexes, watch out, we're looking at the wrong thing. There's something underneath of it, because this trip was underneath all of that topical gook, if you will, right? This was all gook, telling us this and that. This was all it's a red herring, right? It's to detract or distract us from what Harry was really doing, which was flying quietly and stealthily to the UK and back without the UK press knowing about it. Now, so he gets to the UK and he returns to Los Angeles, and only then, 2 days later, is the story breaking in the UK press, despite the fact that his brother William was privy to his presence at the funeral. And so I was watching briefly on, I think it was Brian Squatty's this morning, and she was saying that the press is really angry with William because of this, because he did not alert them that Harry was coming, or that Harry had been there, until after the fact. And so they're really livid with William, and they're basically putting him through the ringer. It's like, how dare you, we're on your side, and then you betray us by not giving us a heads up so that we can go and invade this man's funeral by stalking Harry and writing all manners of demonic things about Harry, and also blowing this man's story out of proportion as well. I mean, think about it. Had they known that Harry was going to come to this funeral, there would have been 108 minimum stories about Harry's uncle. We would have known the whole history of his relationship with the royal family going back 8 decades, right? I mean, the nitty gritty, everything there is to possibly know about him. This would have been churned out and churned out and churned out in anticipation of Harry's arrival And then they would have just gotten all these derivative articles from that, Harry and Meghan's relation with this man or non-relation thereof. And I mean, it would have been an epic coverage. They would have showed up at this man's funeral and turned it into a circus, but all under the guise that they actually cared about this man. But guess what happened instead? We heard absolutely nothing about this man. We heard absolutely nothing about this man's funeral. I almost forgot this man had died because there was just nothing in the headlines or just nothing. There was zero coverage. Why? Because in the end, they don't care one darn about this man. They would have pretended to care about this man. Them and their derivative, quote unquote, tabloid cockroaches on YouTube who churn all these hateful videos about Harry and Meghan, they would have done a fundraiser even. There's one of them that did a fundraiser for Meghan's father, and according to Brian Squatties and Sussex Family TV, there's some kind of dispute about the money now that the money was raised by crowdfunding. But they would have raised money. They would have done all kinds of mischief to create stories as though they cared about this man just because they wanted to get at Harry. But once they heard that Harry wasn't even going to be there, they didn't care. There was no coverage. None at all. And then they heard that, oh my God, Harry was actually in the UK and they missed him. They got nothing. They got no stories, no content. And content is king. Content is king, y'all. I keep telling you, if you don't have content, you're dead in the media business, right? And so they pretty much were dead for that particular story, and that could have been a big meaty story. I mean, Harry is on UK soil, right? What they could have done with that would have been epic. But what's the bigger question is, why didn't William tell them before now? Like, what is the significance of that? Because remember how he grew a beard where he was twinning with Harry, and they're going to be in New York at the same time, and then they were at his funeral, and William didn't say a word. I mean, what the heck was that? Honestly, what do you think is going on with that? And can William handle it if the press turns on him, if they feel that he has turned against them? Anyway, that's all for this one. See you in the next one. Take care. Bye.